Hi, this is part two of our frequently asked questions. This is Isabella Greene. She studied abroad in China in 2014 and 2015, so she's kind of a veteran of studying abroad. We have already discussed some ways to prepare for studying abroad in China, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that, as well as methods for transportation and communication while in China.
Yes, as Jeremy mentioned before, he is on his way to China, and so these questions that we're going to address will be very useful if you are on your way to studying abroad or if you're considering it. So this will have a lot of useful information for you.
So to start off, how much clothing do you think that study abroad students should prepare to bring?
Well, for clothing, I would highly recommend regardless of the duration of your program, you should bring about 1 week's worth of clothing. But let me clarify, when I mean 1 week, I mean enough clothing to where you can create 7 different outfits. So probably about 4 pairs of pants, about 4 shirts, perhaps about 3 pairs of socks, and 3 or 4 pairs of shoes, depending on if you're going to be there during the winter or summer months. But whichever combination suits you, as long as you can create 7 different outfits out of it, and that make sure that the clothes mix or match with each other. I'd also highly recommend that you bring clothes that are easy to wash and lightweight and easy to air dry in case you have to, because in some circumstances in China, you may have to use a drying rack. No, let me clarify. In most cases, you're going to use like a drying rack instead of like a dryer system, and so that's very important. And I would also bring a suit or a dress for formal occasions, because you may get invited to a formal event by some of your friends or so on and so forth. There are a lot of socials in China, so that would be a really good thing to do.
And I mentioned that the goal of a lot of students studying abroad is to make some friends, and you mentioned meeting people at social events. What are the best methods of communication in China?
The best methods for communicating in China is WeChat. That is the most widely used app and social media in China. You can download the app on your phone for free. And I would also recommend that you ask any family members or close loved ones to create a WeChat before leaving, so they can get in touch with you. Upon arrival, you can just send a message saying I've arrived, so on and so forth. And in general, when you meet people in China, they don't give out phone numbers and they don't text the way we do in the United States. They use WeChat. So that would be a good way. And you can just add them by phone number, or you'll hear a lot of, well, can I scan you? That's something that you will pick up. You'll know the meaning of that really quick when you arrive there. Now, you can access social media in China, however, many of the websites are blocked, such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Most of the blog websites, such as Blogger and many of the other blogging websites, are blocked. However, you can access them by buying a VPN. I used PureVPN which is you can buy online. You pay about $50 for 1 year of usage, and that was very helpful for me as far as keeping up and in touch with my family back at home and communicating and so on and so forth. But there are some times that you're in China that your VPN will not work, and it's generally about a week before the national holidays are about to occur. So you want to I recommend having a VPN and also keeping WeChat. And Skype also works in China, so you can use that too if you wish to do so.
So you mentioned that WeChat is an app, so should students purchase a phone while they're in China?
Yes, I would highly recommend purchasing a phone in China, especially if you are on a contract in the U.S., because it's going to be a lot less expensive for you to just purchase a second phone. For example, with my current service, which I won't mention, if you break contract with them, you pay around $400 US. You can buy a phone in China for that price, and if not, actually a lot cheaper. And what you would do is you can purchase a SIM card for as little as $25, but they also go up to about $50 or $60 US, and it'll have all of the data usage that you could possibly need. And if you run over, you only pay about 1 kwai per a month for going over your plan. I think that's very, very inexpensive. I actually ran over my data usage while I was there, and I paid about five kwai total for the rest of my stays, which is under $1. So it is very easy to access phones in China.
And should you purchase internet access while you're there?
Yes, you will need to purchase internet access. There are restaurants where you can get a free Wi-Fi, but of course you will need to purchase something, and the code for the Wi-Fi will be on the receipt. You'll also need to buy internet through your university. So in the university where I studied, which was BLCU, we paid about $20 a month for internet usage, and you have to log in with your username and password, and it's connected with your ID card and so on and so forth. So again, there is ways to access internet in China. You just have to know where to go to do so.
And going on to transportation, how do you use transportation in China?
Transportation is three methods. One is taxi, the second is subway, and the third is going to be buses. For me, I preferred subway because it was the easiest and the least expensive. It's about 2 to 4 kwai per stop, and it's even cheaper if you buy a Metro card. You can buy tickets individually, but if you're going to be in China for a long duration of time, it's better to buy a Metro card. You pay about a 14 kwai deposit, and then you can load as much money on there as you wish. You can probably put 40 or 50 kwai on the card at a time, and that'll hold you for at least 5 to 6 months, depending on how much that you travel. And again, the signs in the subways are in English, so it's very easy to access. And once you ride the subway, if you've never rode a subway before, you get used to it in a very short period of time. The bus system is very similar, but I just like the subway better because for some reason I just understood how to use it better. But the bus works relatively the same. You will have there will be lists on the street with bus stops, and they're going to be in characters with no pinyin of where that bus stop will go to, and you can use your Metro card for the bus system as well. Taxis are the most expensive, but compared to the U.S., it really isn't. But if you're on stipend or scholarship, it may be. Beijing and Shanghai have the most expensive taxi fare. I paid, I think a 30-minute ride in a taxi in Beijing was about 70 to 90 kwai, which is about no more than $10. So that's not that bad, and that's one way. It just really depends on the amount of time you want to spend on this in transportation, or the amount of money you want to spend on transportation. That's really what it breaks down to. But all of them are relatively cheap in comparison to what we pay for fare in the U.S. So.
And in order to pay for that transportation, are there any kinds of part-time job opportunities for students while in China?
There are part-time job opportunities. However, it is considered illegal for students who have student visas to work in China. But there have been numerous occasions where students do work. For example, one way that they work is they do voice recordings in English, and the companies know that you're not illegally allowed to work. So generally what they'll do is they'll pay you in cash. And they don't really ask for like a lot of contact information. Another way that you could work in China is if in the university where you study, there'll be opportunities for you to teach English, because English is very much in high demand in China, especially American English. And you'll be paid a very handsome salary that way. As far as I know from talking to other people who have worked in China as students, as long as your hours are under 20 hours a week, it shouldn't be a problem. But again, exercise caution. If someone asks you to sign a contract, do not sign it. If you are approached to do anything with government-related work, do not, of course you're going to say no, that sort of thing. So it's just a matter of exercising caution and common sense.
And while in Beijing, what was the weather like?
The weather, the winters are very dry. You will need to drink a lot of water and moisturize your skin. The summers beginning from April to July, it gets more and more hot. July is going to be the peak of the heat season. August, it kind of goes down a little bit in September, but it's still going to be very humid and very hot during that period of time. So again, you want to drink a lot of water. And in July, you also have an issue with very heavy pollution. So you just want to exercise caution. Fall is very cool and full of leaves and weather, especially if you go out up into the mountains. So it's very similar to some of the parts of regions of the U.S.
And what kind of places do you think were good to meet Chinese people? Or meet people in China?
Pretty much in any pretty public area, because if you are a foreigner in China, you're going to draw a lot of attention, especially if you go to the smaller towns. Beijing, maybe not so much because it's a big city and it's an international city. But if you go to a city like, say, Datong or Tianjin or Guilin, you're going to draw a lot of attention. So people will come up to you, they'll ask to take pictures with you. I got that a whole lot. Like, can I take a picture with you? Or a lot of them, their children are learning English, so they'll encourage them to say hello to a foreigner. So you will have no trouble meeting people in China. And another good way to meet people is language partners, which you can get those relatively easy. I have been in a coffee shop talking to my friends, and someone walks up to me and says, "You speak good English, do you want to be my language partner?" That kind of thing. So it's going to be relatively easy for you to meet people.